everyone. Welcome back to the Dugout. Another European review slash preview as we look back to a disappointing week for the Scottish clubs in UEFA competition. But hopefully, a few of the teams can turn it around or get the win because there is still two teams that are level in their ties, two teams that are behind in their ties. I'm joined by my co-host today, Alexander Cruikshanks. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Outside the football, I'm good right now. But looking forward to another week of European football. Hopefully, we can see some turnarounds. Some teams, winning as they should. Obviously, difficult for all four teams going away from home, and not none of them having obviously won at home. It makes it all the more difficult for them. But hopefully they can. Most of them can get their act together. I think at least one of them, the tie's gone, unfortunately. But yeah, the rest, I think it's still in the balance for them.
Yeah, and I think we'll start with that game that I think you're referring to, Ibrox on Tuesday. Obviously, the full-time score was Rangers 1, Club Brugge 3. Terrible start by Rangers, and I think the really frustrating thing for the Rangers fans is that first 20 minutes of an 180-minute tie has really put it beyond Rangers, you would have to say.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because I think the way it sounds weird because Rangers were 1-0 down within 2 minutes, but the way Rangers started the game, they were pretty good in that first kind of 2 minutes or so. Gassama had a few runs. Overall, he had a really good night. Just on and he was unlucky not to get his goal, although by the laws of the game, rightfully disallowed. But yeah, in that first 2 minutes, it looked like Rangers were gonna, come out the blocks quickly, but then they were obviously set back. I think I've come to the conclusion that I am blaming Nasser Giga for that. I've looked at it again. It doesn't look like Butland shouts. Butland does kind of come out and stop a little bit, but I think the mistake both of them made is none of them took charge. But I think I would blame Giga because the ball was very much there for him to just knock it back or get it away or something. He slows down, doesn't really has zero awareness of the striker at his back. Doesn't because even if you're trying to slow down to let your keeper come and take it, you check over your shoulder, block the block the striker from running in, but he just slows down, lets him run by. Really, really nice finish, but he should have never been in that position. So yeah, I've come to the conclusion that I'm blaming Nasser Giga on that one. The second one was dreadful as well. Rangers were having issues with that short corner the whole night, um, you know, and really, really poor. The ball comes through and it's another, kind of reaction finish, but shocking defending. One thing about that corner that my dad actually mentioned to me, and I thought, and you don't see it very. I spoke about it on the Scottish Football Zone, and I think Michael McEwen, the host of that, a good friend of ours, friend of the show, um, he said that we don't see it a lot in modern football anymore. That you leave a man up. And that's exactly what my dad said Rangers should have done. Because if you leave Gassama on the halfway line, they need to put two on him because you don't want him going one on one with someone on a break. So that instantly takes away that threat from knocking it around. But Rangers never did that. It was all zonal marking, every man back. And then the third goal, Joe Rothwell's header away wasn't great, but it was a really nice finish. I thought you can take anything away from that. Struck so sweetly. But yeah, you felt like the tie was over within the first 20 minutes. The rest of the first half, Bruce were just knocking it about. One thing that I thought they were excellent at, where if they got into tight situations, see the way they switched the ball, they clearly practice it because they were all, how if you try and switch in, it's maybe like looping or you don't get enough power on it. There's not enough precision, not enough direction. Every time they switched the ball, it was straight to the man, quick. So Rangers players couldn't get over, and they were away in space again. So yeah, second half, Rangers started really, really well. They obviously get the goal back. Jared Magoma, he was one of the highlights I thought of the evening for Rangers. He had a good debut, got the assist for Danilo. And then for much of that second half, Rangers were on the front foot. They were pushing for that second goal, and they did get it, but obviously, as I mentioned, it was disallowed. And yeah, by that point, I think in the last 10 minutes or so, you could see after that goal was disallowed, the wind was knocked out of the players a little bit because after that dreadful first half, they'd come back out and they'd fought really, really hard, and they'd tried to drag themselves back into the tie. I think if that goal had counted, Rangers might have even gone on to get a third. If not, it would have been going into this tie on Wednesday, with only a 1 goal deficit to overturn. But unfortunately, it finished 3-1 at Ibrox, and I think it's too much to ask, especially with the way Rangers are playing right now. We're still waiting on that performance when they start. We've seen flashes, of Rangers. It seems like they need to, something needs to happen for them to get kicked into life, because they still weren't great, but we saw it against St Mirren yesterday. It came out in the second half and they were all right. They were much better. They were actually making chances. And causing threats, and they get the goal through Findlay Curtis. But yeah, it's a really difficult sort of task for them. But I think the only way I can see Rangers overturning this is if they start the way they started the second half last week and play that way for 90 minutes. In this current Rangers team, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, and I agree with your point. We'll obviously touch on the weekend's match against St Mirren in more detail in an episode which will be released tomorrow as we're recording this on Tuesday. It'll be released talking about the weekend's fixtures, and that's something that Russell Martin said post-match, that they need to stop giving teams a start, pretty much. They need to stop starting the game so poorly. They obviously give St Mirren, well, they don't give St Mirren the goal. St Mirren worked well for the goal, but a poor start, they're having to catch up. Really poor start against Bruges. They're having to catch up.
Open at the back again. Really open at the
Yeah.
back. I know Jonah Ayunga is a good player, but when have you ever seen him sprint through on goal from a through ball and finish it? I don't think I've ever seen that from Ayunga. He's normally just battering people in the box. So sorry, I've been ranting, went on a rant about the game there, and I'm ranting about this, but shocking open defending again. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, not at all. And I agreed with a lot of your points. I think Nasser Deziga does need to take primary blame for the opening goal the other night. He is the player closest to the ball. He is the player in control of the situation, or should be in control of the situation. And you've seen it from behind the goal, from behind Mignolet's goal. The camera shows that he takes a glance at his goalkeeper and sees Jack Butland's making a forward movement, but he doesn't look again at either the ball or Jack Butland. So he's took his eye off the ball. Romeo Vermaat's obviously come in, and Butland's left in no man's land, and it is a really good finish, but one that you would expect at this level, and that's the difference in quality that maybe didn't get punished in the previous rounds will be punished by a team like Club Brugge. And then the second goal, as you said, really poor, and corners was a problem for Rangers all night. The 4v3 that Club Brugge just constantly created on short corners, they had Joaquin Says just on the edge of the box with the freedom of Ibrox to do pretty much whatever he wanted. And I know that the goal didn't come from that, but there was so many times he had the ball on the edge of the box. He could have drove to go and had a shot. He could have crossed. He could have went back, and there was just no pressure on the ball at all. And then obviously the goal was really poor. You can't leave us anyone that amount of space on the edge of the box, never mind in the box. And it's one of the central defenders, surely one of the tallest players that you'd be looking to mark. And I know he doesn't score with his head, but it's just so easy for him. He just comes in and helps it towards goal. I think it takes a little nick off John Souttar to help it past Jack Butland, but just a really terrible start in opening 10 minutes.
Under Russell Martin, Rangers at the back on set pieces and from open play, you could fit an airplane in the space that's been given. It's absolutely mental, and I'm still it's crazy. I don't understand it, and it seems like, especially, I know we'll talk about it in more depth, but especially yesterday, there was a lack of intensity. Emmanuel Fernandez at points looked. I don't know what he was doing at points the other day. I don't know what he was. He looked like he was like just chilling or something, like playing a bounce game. There was a point where I think it was Evan Mooney, or it might have been, who was it? Was it Mikael Mandron or Ayung? It was one of the three strikers anyway, and he was like trying to jockey him. It didn't look like he was just like chilling, like watching him, and then the player like goes by him and has a shot at goal, and I'm like, what are you doing, mate? You're not trying to make it difficult. You're not doing anything, and there's a lack of intensity and a lack of drive for 90 minutes. We have seen intensity from Rangers this season, but not enough. And you know, and another bugbear of mine when it comes to Rangers this season, sort of breaking down defences, and even even against the top sides where there's maybe a bit more space, they don't move the ball quick enough, Ethan. They, some 2, 3 touches, just knocking it about. Joe Rothwell always passing it back to a centre back. I think seen him play 3 forward passes. How is he still starting as well? He's been absolutely rubbish, and he doesn't do anything on the defensive end. Um, which is why yesterday I think we saw that Nico Raskin was dropped back to the sort of defensive position to start the game, and Rothwell was moved forward. But Rothwell doesn't make penetrating runs either. You need, if you. I don't understand. I don't think there's a role suited for his type of play in this midfield, this system, which is weird because Russell Martin had him before. So I'm a bit confused. So yeah, Rangers don't move the ball quick enough, and they can't. It's just passing it back. They really just take risks. Try things. I don't mind if you try to play a 1-2 and dunk it over the top and it doesn't work out. At least you're trying. At least you're not sizing up your defender and then going up. Back to Raskin, back to Magoma, back to Max Aarons. Fans don't mind if you try and take a risk and actually do something. See, when we're forced to watch mind-numbing football, and on top of that, you don't get the results. It can be really, really annoying. And irritating. So yeah, just sorry for the rant there.
No, that's completely fine. We love rants on this podcast, as we know. And then the third goal, it's just quality from Brandon Mekala, and that's where you really seen Club Brugge's quality as a team, pressing that their centre halves on the edge of Rangers box, pressing I think it was Danilo that was kind of maybe on his heels a little bit as he got in behind him, and then it drops for him. But I don't think there's anything the Rangers players could maybe do about it when it drops for Mekala, and it's an unbelievable strike. Jack Butland has no chance. But I think you kind of seen that the Rangers players were just kind of all on their heels. Nobody really moved towards the ball, and I think that just kind of showed how Rangers had played in that opening 20 minutes. Really flat-footed, just second best in every area of the pitch. And when you're playing against a Champions League quality opponent, then you want to make it difficult for them. You want to make them have to work for their goals, and Rangers has never done that. And Club Brugge looks really comfortable, as you said, but they didn't really have to play that well, and that was the really disappointing thing. In the second half, as you touched on, Rangers were a lot better. They obviously get the goal through Danilo. Good ball by Jade McGoma, who I thought was one of the Rangers standouts, as you said, being thrown in at 19. Danilo in the right place, good movement from him. I think it was his first goal in 27 games or something like that, they said on commentary. So obviously he didn't get the chance to sort of add to that in the directly next game because he didn't start. But then Rangers get that goal again through Gassama, who, as you said, I thought he was Rangers' best player by far on the night. He just looked like he was going to make something happen every time he was on the ball, and Rangers kept looking to him, and he pretty much makes the chance himself, and he probably deserved to get a goal on the night. Just unfortunate that the way it pans out, that it is the right decision in the end, but he doesn't get it. But yeah, I think after that opening 20 minutes, Rangers have just left themselves too much to do, and it's really disappointing because they performed well in that second half. And yes, you maybe could caveat that with the fact that Club Brugge are happy with a 3 goal lead or 3-1 lead, because I think they would have been happy leaving Ibrox with any lead. They must have thought they were in dreamland when they were 3-0 up after 20 minutes.
I think it's a bit of that, and I think it was a bit of you know, they and you know how sometimes when you're in the ground you can kind of see players and see things that you can't see on the telly. For me, it was a bit of them going, "Oh, these guys have actually showed up." You know what I mean? They were a wee bit. It took them a wee bit to sort of adjust to that as well. So I think it was a bit of both, but on the night they definitely deserved the victory.
Yeah, and they were very comfortable, and there was a few sort of standout players, and one player that I think that Celtic and Rangers may have missed a trick on is Carlos Forbes, because he signed from Ajax for €6 million, and
Carlo, I'm a wee bit. This might have been from my perspective. I don't think he was in the game, really.
well, in the first half he was certainly in the game because of the amount of times that Club Brugge switched the ball to him. He had a shot saved by Jack Butland, and nearly forced an own goal from, can't remember who it was, but he got to the byline and cut it across. I thought he looked good. He wasn't ridiculously good. He wasn't the best player on the pitch, but I just think for the price that Club Brugge got him for, I think Celtic and Rangers could have been there when both of them need wingers. But yeah, he's obviously went to Club Brugge, and you can understand why they're obviously.
I don't think he would have went to. I mean, Celtic, he would have went in and started, but at Rangers, I don't know. Right now, obviously, Ant Man's been rubbish recently, but I think if that had been an option, he would have had to fight for that position. Obviously, I think he's a better player than Ant Man is, so maybe he would have, but I don't know. Um, but yeah, no, that's €6 million. You said. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good fee for a player that's had a lot of hype for a while. So yeah, can't help but think though Rangers got the better deal on the left wing. I think
yeah, quite possibly. Yeah,
about
yeah, you
two
couldn't
million.
you,
So
you couldn't disagree with that. I think he's been the standout signing by far. You would have to say, when the others have kind of been a bit hit or miss in points, he's been the one that's been pretty consistent. And I think Russell Martin was even saying that he wasn't very good the other day, but you can excuse him. He's not going to be the best player every game, but
I
he's
think I
been
said I
Rangers'
said
best player in a lot of moments.
I might have said I'm doing so many shows recently. I'm forgetting what shows I'm saying it on, but I might have said that you can't rely on Gassama all the time because he's not going to be class every single game because then he would be Lionel Messi.
Yeah, he wouldn't be at
As
Rangers
Kyle,
exactly.
as Kyle Walker said, nobody's Lionel Messi. So uh, I think we've dwelled on this for a bit long because of my massive rants. But anyway,
Yeah, no, I think that's all our thoughts. What do you want to get? Do you want to do the prediction for the second leg just now?
yeah, I'm gonna go with. I was gonna say 2-0, but I can't see us not conceding. So I'll reverse the first one and go 3-1 to Rangers. Rangers to win on penalties.
Ambitious. Okay, I'm gonna go with another win for Club Brugge. I think I gave Rangers a draw in the first leg, which was I think being a bit generous. But no, I think Club Brugge will
You
win.
nearly went for the win.
Yeah, I was, but you never know with Rangers in Europe. But this Russell Martin team, and I mean, and even in Europe, Rangers have been pretty poor. I know they got through Panathinaikos and Victoria Pilsen, but it was nowhere near convincing. I'll go 2-1 to Club Brugge on the night and 5-2 on aggregate. And I think it will be a slightly better performance from Rangers, and it'll give them a little bit of encouragement going into Sunday's Derby showdown.
Oh God, I forgot about that. Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, and okay, we'll move on to the other side of that derby then, played on Wednesday night, Celtic Park. Very different game, you could say. The opponents nowhere near season Champions League team, but came and really surprised a lot of people, including ourselves, although aided by the fact Celtic were really poor on the night.
Yeah, the Kings of Kazakhstan killing the atmosphere at Parkhead. Really good performance from Kairat Almaty. You know, I was really impressed. I was surprised by them. I was like expecting, you know how Celtic won 3-0 against Livingston at the weekend. Livingston had like two shots or whatever. I was expecting something like that, but it was, you know, it was much different, and it wasn't as if they did sit behind the ball, but not in the way you'd expect. They were aggressive in the right moments. You know, they picked their moments when they got forward. They put together some nice moves. I forget the youngster going to Chelsea. I forget his name. Uh,
Does Stan Satpayev?
yes,
That's Stan Satpayev.
he was good. Not one of the standouts, I thought, but I thought he was quite good going forward. You can see the potential there and why perhaps Chelsea have gone in for him. The big man up top, Ed Milson, nearly scored from the halfway line. Ethan, I think you said in the ground you thought it was in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it did, and yeah, that was the thing that yeah, I was never the Kairat were never sort of knocking on the door, you could say, but they definitely had some really good chances that I mean, I don't think we expected. I think I said 3-0 and you said 5-0 on the prediction, and probably a bit disrespectful to Kairat because they did come and show that they are a lot better than maybe we thought they would be. Because at the end of the day, it's not as if they're a part-time team that they're the champions of their country, and although Celtic should still beat them pretty comfortably at home, they're not just going to turn up and get and take a beating, are they? They're going to compete and make it difficult, and that's exactly what they did. They showed the blueprint of how to get a result, a positive result at Celtic Park against Celtic, and possibly gives teams in Scotland encouragement because a lot of Kairat probably squad budget wise, squad value wise, probably sit about middle of the Scottish Premiership. So showing that you can do it if you apply
Mhm.
yourself properly and line your team up properly. And on another day, they could have very easily, have won on the night. They obviously had that goal from the central defender in the first half, which was ruled offside. And at the time, I thought it was miles offside, but watching back, and I think you informed me that Nygren was just offside by the finest margins. So yeah, they were unlucky there. But Celtic just never created enough across the course of the game, and enough in each straw was probably the fair result on the night.
I think the biggest compliment you could pay them is they looked comfortable defensively for basically the whole game, except from that huge chance Daiser Maeda missed at the end. He's not looked himself this season. Obviously, it's difficult to replicate that last season. I don't think anyone was expecting him to replicate the previous season. Well, any realistic person was expecting him to replicate the previous season, but I think people may have expected a little bit more. You know, so it's not been a great start for him, and maybe he's lacking a bit of sharpness. Maybe after being so fit for so long and maybe he needs a break. Maybe his body needs a bit more time to readjust. I don't know. So yeah, that wasn't great from him. One guy that I want to highlight on the Kairat side, who for me was my man of the match. The central defender Glazer, he was absolutely everywhere. He, blocking, winning stuff in the air, putting in great challenges, just being aggressive. I thought he was fantastic and sort of locked up Adamida, who is coming under even more criticism. Obviously, I don't think he played at the weekend. Shin Yamada started the game, got a disallowed goal. Johnny Kenny came on, got a goal. So things aren't looking good. We might see one of them. Things aren't looking good for Adamida. We might see one of them start against Kairat Almaty in the second leg. And yeah, in general, Celtic's play, it was slow. It wasn't, they weren't creating much. And very, very rarely do I say this, but I forgot that Callum McGregor was in the game for a lot of it, apart from maybe that yellow card that he took. He didn't have his usual influence. He struggled to get involved, which is really rare for him. So, not a great night at all for Celtic. A really good result for the Kazakhstan champions, and I'm sure they'll be buzzing. The 50 odd fans that were there were buzzing, especially when Maeda missed that chance towards the end. There was one guy jumping up on the barrier celebrating. So yeah, they get to bring it all the way back, all 18 hours, back to the Chinese border, to try and progress to the Champions League.
Yeah, and they deserve what they got on the night. Celtic, as you said, didn't create enough. Cal McGregor, you said that he wasn't really in that sort of role where he gets to dictate the game, and I think Celtic would have learned a lot from that first leg though, because something I seen that someone picked up on was that they played the Kairat played so narrow. Their wingers come in so narrow. Their sort of the whole team was really narrow, and I think their game plan was to sort of put the ball up to the striker and try and win the second balls, and that's what they've done a lot of the night. And but it was just pretty much the two set Celtic central defenders v Ed Milson, is it the striker that whereas Cal McGregor was kind of offering that defensive protection in front where he probably didn't need to. He probably could be less reserved and push forward and maybe make those forward runs that sometimes we see that he does. Obviously, it's a high stage match, so but I think Celtic will need to take more risks, and that's why it was so easy for Kairat to play against. Celtic just made it easy for them. It was all in front of them, and Celtic never looked like scoring. They never had any real standout performers either. Obviously, a big injury blow in the first half. Alistair Johnson goes down with that hamstring injury. He's going to be out for 12 weeks, so it's going to be Anthony Ralston at right back until maybe they get in a replacement. Although Colby Donovan, the young player from the Celtic B team, has been sort of brought up to the first team and made his debut at the weekend. So
12 weeks doesn't, see when people say weeks for injuries, it doesn't sound as bad. But then when you do the maths, that's like nearly 4 months. So
yeah,
Alistair Johnson could be out until late December, early January.
yeah. I think you're looking at him missing it if Celtic, obviously, well, regardless of what competition Celtic are in, you would imagine. I think I still have them favourites to progress through to the Champions League. But even if they're in the Europa League, he's going to miss half of the league phase games, and I don't know if that's something you can afford to risk. Anthony Ralston's a solid backup for the Scottish Premiership. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you can go into a campaign knowing that he's going to have to play half the games when it's going to be very tight. I mean, at the moment, I don't see Celtic getting out of any league phase. That takes us on to the board. Obviously, the topic of conversation at Celtic for a while now has been the lack of signings. I think Celtic have got a few in the pipeline now, or at least one with Mikael Ange Balikwisha. The saga looks to be finally over. It's been months this transfer window. He was first linked when he moved to Celtic last year, but the fans are obviously not happy the other night when they were failing to beat Kairat Almaty. Sacked the board, sort of was sung at large parts of the stadium, and there has been discontent towards the Celtic board for a while now, and I think it just all sort of was bottled up frustration from the supporters to what they were seeing, and I think it's fair enough. I would completely agree with the fans that were saying that, and I think the board need to act fast because there's not long left of the how long have we got left of the transfer window now? A week until it shuts. So Celtic have still got to get a good at least four players in, I would say, and there's not a lot of time to do that. They're obviously not going to be in for the second leg, and Brendan Rodgers, I think he has a squad there that should be good enough to beat Kairat, but he'll be really frustrated that he's not got the players in he wanted, and ultimately the Celtic board have risked £40 million by not bringing in the additions before the Champions League qualifiers.
Yeah, it's not been a great summer for Celtic, and it all goes back to that theory that they're complacent and they're happy with just dominating domestic football. Rangers have made it fairly easy for them in the past few seasons. Not saying Celtic haven't been good because they have, especially I think under Ange Postecoglou, we saw some excellent seasons there. But since his first season, when a rebuild was desperately needed, we haven't really seen a super busy transfer window for Celtic. So yeah, I can understand the fans' frustrations and the board chants and all that stuff. They're just trying to voice their frustrations, and yeah, there isn't a lot of time left. It looks like, I think you mentioned it. It looks like Michel Ange Balikwisha is pretty much a Celtic player. I don't know if you saw the other day. It looked like he was saying goodbye to the supporters. So it looks like he's coming in to Celtic, which good, but I think they still need another winger. I think they
Yeah, I would agree.
I think they need a striker, because I don't think I've seen enough evidence from any of the three to say that they're the men to lead the line this season. But then that leads to another issue. You've got four strikers on your books, unless you,
Five, if you include Callum Osborne.
yeah, yeah. So unless Johnny Kenny is moved to Bolton Wanderers goes through, um, although I don't know because he's actually looked okay. So I don't think, and also I don't. I think that would be something the fans would react to in a bad way as well. I think Celtic still need another left back and now a right back. It seems, even if it's like a loan or something like that, they need someone. So it's quite a difficult situation that they've left themselves in. You never know; they might have been brewing something for a while, and they'll all come in on deadline day or something like that season where Jota and Carter Vickers were both deadline day signings. Uh,
And Giakoumakis.
and yeah, and Georgios Yakimakis, all three of them resounding successes at Parkhead. So there might be something like that. But I think the Celtic board are just lucky right now that apart from last week, the results have went their way on the pitch. And if they go out, I don't think they will, but a wee spoiler for my prediction there. But if they go out, it can. I think I said this on Friday. It'll go nuclear, and it it'll be really immense pressure that they'll be under from the supporters.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. And I think the other player they were linked with is Marcelo Sarachi, the Boca Juniors left back, Uruguayan, a former Uruguayan international, used to play for RB Leipzig, of one of many clubs.
I think he
He'd be,
played he played at Roma as well for a while, didn't he?
I think he might have done. No, Galatasaray he played for. You might be
Ah,
getting
yeah,
them
that's
mixed up.
that's fine. It's
The
the color.
colours.
I do that sometimes.
Um, but yeah, I think he'd be a decent backup. But I think there is definitely fairness behind the Celtic fans showing their frustration. And yeah, you're completely right when you say that they are lucky that the results have went their way domestically, and they're lucky with the draw as well because they could have got some pretty decent teams. FC Basel, Sturm Graz. I know Sturm Graz were battered off Bodo Glimt in the first leg, but they are higher quality opposition than Kairat Almaty. No disrespect to the Kazans, but they are quite lucky.
Is it
And
Kazakhstani or is it like Kazakhs or Kazans? I'm not
I think, well, I think Kazan's like the equivalent to like Scots, and
right.
then Kazakhstani's like Scottish, I think.
Right.
Um, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's
Also, I'm a bit wary of some of these terms as well because you never know if you've accidentally offended someone.
yeah, yeah.
So
I know,
if I have, I deeply apologise. I'm just
yeah, yeah,
uneducated.
likewise. But no, I did look at that because I was wondering what's the sort of proper term, and it wasn't really clear. But they were the two words that came up: Kazan and Kazakhstani. And the other really point about this is Brendan Rodgers. He'll feel like he's been hung out to dry because for weeks now he's had to face the press. The questions have quite rightfully constantly been about what players he's signing, why not signing players. And he's not responsible for that, but he needs to face the questions. And I think he said in a previous press conference he's not going to get agitated or annoyed about it, but you can see that he is getting annoyed about it. And I think he'll feel like he was really let down when they go into a Champions League qualifier under strength. And of course, they should still have enough to beat Kairat Almaty, but he will probably look at that and go, that's it. I will not be signing a new contract at Celtic next season. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll be the Celtic manager next season. And it's strange because I think for the success he's had at the club and looking about, don't think Celtic could really get a much better manager than Brendan Rodgers. So it is really strange. But yeah, and the last point I want to touch on for Celtic is that, or just before we get on to the prediction, is the entitled argument. I've seen a lot of discourse on this on X, especially that Celtic fans are entitled to complain about the board with obviously the domestic success. And I just think it's absolutely ridiculous because I think in any sport, no matter where your team lies that you support, that you should strive for the absolute best.
It's
And there's
sorry,
no,
this might be a bit disrespectful, but it's usually the ones moaning are the fans of teams that have won like three trophies in their 150-year history or whatever. You know what I mean. It's it's like that, and I think there's an element of jealousy, and obviously a lot of the fans of the other teams in Scotland hate Celtic and Rangers, because of their success over the years, and it's I think that's the source of a lot of that, and I don't think it's entitlement. I think um, it's not entitlement because I think they have a right to demand the very best, and want to push forward, and they were showing that that's possible going 180 minutes toe to toe with Bayern Munich, just to the last kick of the game, in the second leg. They were showing that there's a pathway, and there's nothing wrong with ambition. I don't think, and that's all the Celtic fans want to see from the board. They want to see a bit of ambition, a willingness to push forward, and like I mentioned earlier, not just complacency.
yeah, I would completely agree with what you said, and I don't think the Celtic board shows enough ambition, and that's why the Celtic fans get so frustrated when they put so much money into the club. But yeah, we'll move on to the predictions for this game. Obviously, no Scottish club has ever won in Kazakhstan, although Celtic do have the slight boost that Dastan Satpayev, their main man, obviously signing for Chelsea next season for €4 million, is suspended for that really stupid yellow card he picked up at the end of the match. He'll be
You
kicking himself.
you could
Uh,
see straight after he was like, "Why have I done that?" Because he was fuming.
Yeah,
He knew what it meant. I think it was just a moment of madness from him.
yeah, and possibly that slight inexperience will forgive him. Only just turned 17, but
I know we're sitting
what?
here 20 years old talking about him in our bed.
Yeah, well, to be fair, a 15-year-old played for Arsenal the other day, so it gets worse. But no predictions.
2010.
Yeah,
That's mental.
yeah, that's crazy. Oh no, I think he might have been. I think he might have been 2009 actually.
That's still mental though.
Yeah,
2009.
yeah, that's still
He's two
crazy.
years younger than my little brother.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I think as we both kind of hinted, I think we do still have Celtic as our favourites, and rightfully so. The financial gap is still one that shouldn't be closed just because Celtic are travelling across the world. And of course, the visitors carried Almaty to the first leg. They had to do that as well. I would caveat it with the fact that they are probably more accustomed to doing that because Kazakhstan is a much bigger country and they probably do have ridiculously long away days where Celtic, the longest away day you might get is maybe 4 hours to Dingwall, which isn't even in the top flight anymore, but still no excuses. Celtic should be able to go over there and win pretty easily.
Now that you've mentioned Dingwall, I was right the whole time. Don Kimmy's a fraud.
Yeah, we'll get Derek Adams back in charge after being sacked by Morecambe eventually.
Not that I'm mad about not that I'm happy about a man losing his job, but I was
Certainly seem happy.
would no, but I told you the whole time.
No, you did. That's fair enough. But we'll stop blabbering on. Prediction. What's your prediction for this second leg in
I've
Almaty? Or yeah, in Almaty.
Yeah, I've been misleading you the whole time. I'm gonna go 2-1 to Kairat Almaty. No, I'm just
Fair
kidding.
enough.
I'm gonna go 2-0 to Celtic.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. 2-0 with Celtic, a goal in each half. I think Celtic. Maybe if the performance, I know it's a very rotated team against Livingston, but maybe if the performance was sluggish again, then there would be that sort of more frustration from the fans. But I think a lot of the fans left the stadium feeling good about themselves, and they'll be hoping that rubs off on the players heading over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, so moving down competition to the Europa League, where Aberdeen were probably the standout team for the Scottish clubs this week, it'd be fair to say. They're the one that got.
I'm still not. It's talking about Aberdeen as if they got a fantastic result and what.
Yeah, the bar's very low.
Yeah, exactly. People have been clinging on to this result because they were the only team not to lose and score at the same time. You know what I mean? Um, but uh, you know when FCSB had 11 men, it looked like you know it could have the tie could have been out of sight like Rangers and Aberdeen. Fair play to them, they fought back, but I don't get all the people have been talking about it as if it's a great result. I don't really think so. Um, leaves them a lot to do to go away to Romania and try and get they will try and get the win that they need. Um, and yeah, good that they're still in it. They're in a better position than Rangers. They're in a better position than the Habs. But I don't know, man. I feel like it's been talked up as if they won. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think that it possibly comes with the fact that they were 2 goals behind. That it's a comeback. They're in the game. They've brought themselves back into the tie. But I agree with what you're saying. It's still an awful lot for Jimmy Tilling and his players to do to go over there and to Bucharest and get a positive result. Because FCSB, although they've started the season terribly domestically, especially, they are still a big team. Well, in the Europa League phase last season, Aberdeen, I think it's been over a decade. I want to say just over a decade since Aberdeen were last in the Europa League. So yeah, it's going to be really difficult for Aberdeen, but the two goals do give them a massive boost going over there. I'll just run through the goals in the game. The first two goals Aberdeen conceded is terrible. Well, the only two goals they conceded, obviously, but the sort of first goal, FCSB sort of ping a long ball out wide, and it's Gavin Malloy's the left back. Jack Milne kind of goes over to help him, and it pushes the whole defence because Alexander Jensen, the right back, is very high with the way Jimmy Tilly wants to play. It kind of leaves Alfie Dorrington with a 2v1 FCSB players, and it's David Mikulescu who wins the sort of battle on the right hand side and then just slides Daniel Burligia through, and it's an easy finish for him. It is a nice finish. He lifts it off for Dimitar Mitov, but really poor goal for Aberdeen to concede. Really sort of schoolboy defending as the term goes. And then they get what you would call a lifeline 5 minutes from half time when FCSB are reduced to 10 men. Nicholas Milanovic dispossesses Adrian Soot in the midfield. He's sort of driving away, and Juri Sissotti, the Italian winger, brings him down from behind. I don't think anyone in the ground at the time thought it would be a red card. I certainly didn't. The referee shows him the red card, and it's a straight red. He's sent off. I think it's a yellow card, but I can see why he's gave a red card. But I just think it's a poor decision. I think it's just I know he's behind, and I know Milanovic is breaking away, but I just don't think that's a red card. Do you think that'd be fair to say, Alex?
Uh, I'm not gonna lie, I've not seen
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Well,
uh,
as
I'll look it up quickly if you want me to, but
okay. Well, I'll go through the rest of the game, and you
to be
can
fair,
try and find it.
I've had a bit of a mare. I had a bit of a stinker in prepping for this video. So on Thursday, I was out with my friends, watching my friend's band. So um, I didn't see the games, and then in prep for this video, for some reason, I watched all the SPFL highlights, and then forgot. And then midway through this video, I've realised I've not seen Hibs or Aberdeen, so I can't really speak to a lot of what's happened in the games. I've seen clips and stuff, but it's poor form from me here. I've
Well,
had
I'll run the viewers who maybe haven't seen or have seen through the rest of the events at the Tawdry, and you can try and show us a clip of the red card. I don't think it's a red card. I think it's really harsh on the player, but Aberdeen won't be complaining because obviously it kind of guides them back into the game. Jimmy Tilly makes a triple change at half time. Nelson, Dorrington, and Yengi making way for Clarkson, Nooster, and Sokla. But in the first minute of the second half, FCSB doubled their lead despite going down to 10 men. Leighton Clarkson sort of plays a ball back to the defence. It's in between Gavin Malloy and Matt Knister, and they kind of leave it for each other. Daniel Buglia gets in, but between them, takes the ball off them and is driving towards goal. Then he squares it nicely across to his captain, Darius Alaru, who come off the bench at half time. So I don't know exactly if it was his first touch, but it would have been one of his first touches to tap it in. And at that point, it was a long way back for Aberdeen. They obviously got the man advantage,
Was
but
the
then
Aberdeen game on BBC?
yes, it was. It was on BBC.
Okay, because I
Uh,
could find the highlights on YouTube, so I'm checking the iPlayer.
if you look it up on X, then you might be able to find it. But it's whether somebody's uploaded the clip. But yeah, but credit to Aberdeen. It would have been easy to sort of go under after going two goals behind, especially when you've got that man advantage. Then the sucker punch of that second FCSB goal, a brilliant goal from Dante Polvara. He kind of has his back to goal and he just turns on the swivel and smashes it in off the near post. A really nice goal, and they were marked to get Aberdeen back in the game and get their fans up and excited at the prospect that they can go and get that equaliser. and then eventually they do Palaversa, I think it was, who took the corner, swings it in. Esther Sokler sort of rises tallest in the box and headers it down and past Stefan Tarnavanu, the remaining goalkeeper for FCSB, and two each, and sets up a real prospect of a good game, a shootout in Bucharest. And it will be difficult for Aberdeen, as we said, because they did play most of that. Well, they did play most of the 90 minutes with a man advantage. They obviously won within those 90 minutes, but FCSB are going to have 11 men on the park in front of their home stadium. It'll be hostile atmosphere. The fans will expect
Well,
them to qualify
just
for Europa League.
just saying it, that's a bit harsh. I think. I think
Yeah,
it's a very cynical yellow.
yeah. I think it is. I know he maybe doesn't make an attempt for the ball, but I think it is a really harsh red card. But you know what? We're not going to complain about it because it helped Aberdeen back into the game, and now they have a real fighting chance going there. There'll be a lot of pressure on FCSB though, because they have had a terrible start to the league season. They dropped out of Champions League qualifiers as obviously the remaining champions from last season. So there'll be a lot of pressure from their fans to get this over the line and get into the Europa League. Whereas I think the Aberdeen fans are would be a bit more happy with the prospect of Conference League compared to maybe what FCSB are, and maybe that could play into Aberdeen's hands. They just need to start the game well. The goals they gave up were just too easy. They handed them on a plate for the visitors, and they can't afford to do that again. And if they don't, then maybe they stand themselves a really good chance, and
Yeah.
at least they're in the game. That's the positive you can take from this, and
Yeah.
you never know what can
Just
happen.
another point as well. FCSB's away kit's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a really nice kit. I noticed that when they were scoring their goals. I did watch the game, and yeah, it was a decent game, but it was really disappointing watching because Aberdeen, the goals they gave away were just really poor, and
Yeah.
it's just they
Also,
just shot themselves in the foot.
see this season, with games being broadcast on the BBC, like European games, for Rangers' game against Panathinaikos in Greece, I think they used like a Greek kind of, sort of provider. And for the other games, I don't know if you've noted this, but it looks like they're using, the operations from like Club TV. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? There
I
isn't
haven't.
any like BBC, like the usual like BBC branding and stuff like that. I wonder what's going on with that.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's because they just take some of the games on such short notice that it's not really been well planned. It seems like the BBC are just taking the rights for the games because no one else will, and it is really disappointing because although it's qualifiers and it's early rounds, you want sort of the big broadcasters to, to be passionate about showing the Scottish game, and it is
But
disappointing that they
Amazon
haven't.
Prime took the Rangers game, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that's how that happens with the playoffs, and that's why, especially sorry, I don't think it happens in the Europa and Conference League, but in the Champions League, they sort of make a big thing about the playoffs. They've obviously got the Champions League branding, the music, and they make a big thing about it. Show that you're just one step away from making it to the competition, and that's why a team like
One
for Kyrat,
away
it's
from
a massive.
finishing last in the league phase or something.
Yeah, and for a team like Kyrat, that's why it's a massive occasion for them because it's the furthest they've ever made it and
Yeah.
biggest game of their club. Well, biggest game ever for their club,
Hmm.
financially, and going to Celtic Park, and a brilliant result for them as well. But yeah, disappointing for Aberdeen the goals they gave away, but they give themselves confidence ending the game well, albeit against 10 men.
Yeah.
Moving down to
Are we doing a prediction for this one?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm getting too excited. Yes, we'll do a prediction for this game. What's your prediction for this game in Bucharest?
I'm gonna go with one each, and I'm gonna go with Aberdeen to lose on penalties.
Disappointing. I'm going to be more optimistic. I'm going to go with 2-1 Aberdeen after extra time.
Okay. Okay.
But blind optimism there, but Yeah, I think Aberdeen can do it. They've put themselves in a decent position. They've got momentum in the tie. I know it'll be difficult against 11 men, but I think the goals they gave up are really preventable. And if they can be a bit more tight at the back, then they give themselves a good chance.
I
Now,
don't
moving to,
see because I wasn't super up to date or anything. Did Marco Lazetic play or was he in the squad or?
he didn't play, I don't think. I don't know if he was on the squad, but he never played because it was Yengi started. He got hooked at half time for Sokler, who obviously came on and got the goal, but
Yengi,
I don't,
I was really excited about him. He looks like an absolute stinker, doesn't he?
he doesn't look the best so far, but you never know. Maybe he can turn it around. Hopefully, he scores a hat trick in Bucharest, and
Yep.
all will be forgiven. Moving down to the Europa Conference League, and in Edinburgh, Hibs hosted Legia Warsaw, who finished fifth in the Polish league last season, but obviously have a massive European pedigree from their ties, their very famous or infamous ties against Celtic, where they were knocked out of Champions League qualifying for fielding illegal players, or ineligible players is probably the better word. They weren't fielding criminals. Um, Hibs, again, same as Aberdeen, really poor defending from Hibs leads to the chance where Legia get their penalty. I want to say it's harsh on Rocky Bashiri because his hand is kind of in by his body, but the ball's heading towards goal, so I can understand why the referee's giving it after looking at VAR. Jean Pierre and Sam, who's kind of a good striker that I recognise from his time at Young Boys, especially. Stepped up and it's a brilliant penalty, high into the roof of the net. John Smith doesn't really have a chance with this one. And then, strangely enough, he does the Victor Gyökeres celebration after, which I don't know what that was about. Um, and then just before half time, Legia also doubled their lead.
Victor
Um,
Gyökeres,
yeah,
who plays for the Gooners.
yeah, that's the one. Well, no, he plays for the Gunners.
Oh, sorry, the Gooners are the fans. They're all Gooners.
Yeah, yeah. The weird why the fans having need to have a different name to the nickname for the club. I don't know. Anyway, and Sam was at the heart of the second goal as well. Josh Campbell has the ball facing towards his own goal. They kind of pickpocket him. They press really well, Legia. It finds in Sam on the corner of the box on the left hand side, and he chips it to the back post. It's a perfect ball for Pavel Washlet, I'm going to go with, who finishes first time past Smith. A really, really good goal right before half time, 2-0 up. Not looking very good for Hibs at all. And then in the second half, it looks like they went 3-0 ahead. Bartosz Kapustka was this time, but it was rightfully ruled out for offside to give Hibs a lifeline. And then they obviously played better in the second half. And then they get that goal through Josh Mulligan, which gives them a chance in the tie, you would say, but still a very uphill battle going over to the Polish capital.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is one that it's not. I don't think it's going to be a very good week for Scottish teams. Ethan, I know I predicted Rangers to go through, but that's just my bias. If I'm being realistic, I think we will see three teams in league phase football: one in the Champions League, one in the Europa League, and one in the Conference League. I think. I just think. I don't know. I don't think Hibs should go away to Poland and turn this around. Unfortunately, uh,
Yeah,
they've, I think they've left themselves too much to do. Obviously, the tie is still on the balance, more than Rangers is, but yeah, it's a really tough ask for them, and yeah, it's disappointing because of the way it went and how happy and good this run has been for all the teams so far. It's been a really good feel around it. But I think this week it's all going to come crashing down.
well, yeah, fair enough. I'm struggling to disagree with you because it is uphill battles for all the teams really. I think Celtic obviously still favourites to go over there. and Aberdeen have put themselves in a decent position, still in the tie. Difficult. Hibs very difficult. Rangers bordering on impossible. You feel so. I do agree with you. I think it is going to be possibly a tough week for the Scottish clubs, but I think on the most part, all the Scottish teams have done themselves proud. Would you be, on the most part? I think if Celtic get through, they've done the job. You could say Rangers, they've won the ties they were expected to win. They've we'll obviously have to see. We're talking about we don't know the outcomes here, but I'm thinking Hibs done really well to get to the stage they're at. Dundee United done really well with the draw they were given. So yeah, I think
I think
although
as a whole, we can be proud of our sides,
yeah,
but I think we dared to dream, we dared to hope, and I think it's going to feel a lot worse. And if you want, because of that sad kind of monologue that I went on before, and because I'm talking about this now, I'm sort of alluding to the fact for my prediction. So, do you want me to give it?
yes, I'm just looking. Sorry, I was just gonna make a final point. Sorry, FCSB lost 2-0 at the weekend, so at home. So
Yeah, but their league
maybe
form
gives Aberdeen.
was rubbish before.
Yeah, but that gives Aberdeen confidence, surely.
Well,
I think
I'm going to go with Legia Warsaw 2, Hibs nil.
okay, that's fair enough. I'm gonna go with Hibs 2. Well, Legia Warsaw 1, Hibs 2, Hibs to win on penalties. I
Okay,
still think there's a chance for the high bees, and I think they'll do it.
okay.
Hibs not playing a game at the weekend, Aberdeen not playing a game at the weekend. They can go over there fresh. FCSB did play a game, as I just mentioned. Legia didn't. Celtic and Rangers obviously did. Club Brugge didn't, and I don't think Kairat did either. Let me just double check. But yes, I think that's us. And yeah, hopefully a good week ahead for the Scottish clubs, although we're not too optimistic, rather pessimistic in this in this part of the world in general, but when it comes to the four teams. But we hope for the best. Thank you for watching and listening. Goodbye. Go and check out the dugout on Twitter and the dugout on TikTok and the dugout on our new Spotify where you can listen and you don't have to watch us ramble on. You can listen to us ramble on. Goodbye.